Okay. So my first question is that this pandemic has been interrupted by the the coronavirus, right? And it is interrupting the education system as well. And there are a lot of vulnerable groups, such as children with special needs, that obviously require a particular way of being taught on how to engage in schoolwork or activities. So how do you think that this pandemic or coronavirus will affect their education? And is there a way that you think it can be adjusted to suit them?
Um, you know, these are the challenging times. This virus has caused everyone to lose their right. No one has a right at this moment, and no one knew about it. As I was going through these points, the unemployment, the mental health education, and all of this, I came to one thing, which is no one knew about this.
Yeah.
And there is a need for mindset shift. We are here now. I never thought I'll be doing this because as a speaker, I used to speak and with audience. And now I had to download this Zoom thing. I had to learn everything. So I think we
Yeah.
need to change our mindset and adapt and do what we can with what we have where we are.
Thank you.
Okay.
My next question has to do with how you perceive the right to education to sort of evolve, especially if we do get to a point of normalcy, where we all can go back to society, let's put it that way. Like, what do you predict in terms of what's going to actually change in terms of the education system in the future, now that we've gone through this?
You know, this morning I was thinking, we always say things that we don't mean. For instance, we were so used to the saying that we are a digital generation. And now this pandemic calls for digital in everything. We have to do everything digital. And now, yes, Nomfundo, you might laugh again. Now, all of a sudden, we are panicking, we are complaining, we're this. And I'm like, this digital generation is not supposed to complain. We are the ones, the adults, who are supposed to complain about this thing. We don't know, even government and leadership, no one knows what's going to happen next. And no one saw this coming. It caught all of us by surprise. And it seems as if it's bigger than us. The only thing we can do is we are told to stay home. So you might as well just stay home and stay connected. We just need to learn, not necessarily to become IT specialists, but we need to teach ourselves because that's where we are now. We need to learn these new things. And it's so uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie because we are so used to that. And now we must adjust to this new normal, of which you don't know when is it going to last. Because when the 21 days lockdown was introduced, we thought it was just that. And we had expectations that after 21 days, life was going back to normal. But here we are. We don't know. Yes.
Would you like to go, or should I? Okay.
No, I just want to go next. But it's fine. My next question is, like, do you think that the education system, now that it has to be adjusted in some form, do you think that as a country and how South Africa is set up, that the learners and staff will be ensured a way of not infecting each other with the coronavirus? Because we know that, like, a lot of schools in South Africa, especially in the rural areas, it's overcrowded with the children. There's up to like 200 students in a room, and staff is also overcrowded. So do you think that the government has the capability to make sure that the infections won't go high in the school system?
I love that question. And government is not prepared, one. And secondly, the issue in villages and in townships, it's different than suburbs. I heard, because when was it? It was announced recently that the schools will reopen on the 1st of June. And people, especially parents and even SATU, the educators, they are anxious because they feel like the department is not ready. And my argument with that is there is no social distancing there in villages and townships. And also, so life is normal. If you were to go now at any townships or in any rural area, you are going to find people just living life as normal. So for me, even the fact that the schools were closed, it was really a waste of time from a township and rural areas perspective. This social distancing is only working for the privileged. Even the mask, I have my mask by the way, even with masks and sanitizers, people in rural areas, that was not important for them. All they need is a loaf of bread to survive for today. And the things, the measures that the government is telling us to apply, they are not realistic from someone who is in township, from someone who is sharing a room with 5 other people. So now if you're telling me that the schools are not ready, you are like, from township and villages, you're like, this is our life. We've been living like this. We've been sharing house with more than 5 people in one room. So what do you mean that we are going to be crowded? We're already crowded. There is no social distancing. And that's the majority of South Africans, because it's the minority that is able to apply these rules and regulations. So it's an issue of those who have and those who have not. Otherwise, in villages, that is the majority of South Africans that I'm talking about.
I would like for you to unpack, because I just heard the announcement, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that the matrics and the grade 7s are returning back to school. And
Yes.
for me, it came as a surprise, because I also questioned as to if we're ready for that to happen. And as you mentioned, the majority of South Africa, in terms of applying regulations and social distancing, it's very difficult. And now with this new announcement, it's a cause for concern and a little bit of worrisome as well. That's how I feel. But I want to hear your opinion on it.
Again, those who are concerned and anxious about schools being reopened is the privileged. And I would say, for me, this pandemic highlighted the issues of injustice in South Africa, because parents and everyone who is anxious are those who have big yards, is those who have rooms for their kids, is those who have been practicing social distancing, it's those who have transport of their own to drive and get whatever they want from shops, not the ones who are using public transport, because in public transport you take taxi, you take whatever you can, and there is really no social distancing. So it's the issue of where, from different perspectives, and where you are at that particular person. Otherwise, we view this thing differently depending which side, the privileged and the disadvantaged.
Afua?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Since we're on this topic of the education system, because I also saw the other day that yes, the matrics are going back, but then on top of that, they're being told,
you are breaking. I've missed you. You are breaking.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Oh my days.
Oh,
Can you hear
yes,
me?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
So, okay, so did I start from the beginning? Hear anything at all? Oh, okay. So, because of what we're discussing now with the matrix, the other day I also saw that on top of them going back, they're being told that their syllabus is not going to be adjusted at all for them. The load of work that previous matric students have had is still going to be the same, and they're not compromising anything about it. Do you think that is particularly fair, especially seeing that, you know, the purpose of human rights is to create a fair and equal society, and surely they should, you know, try and adjust it somewhat to make it also easier for them during this period?
When it comes to this pandemic, there is no common ground. It's the department, we don't know, because I don't have facts about these things. So I don't know how the department, by the way, my son is doing matric, and they were not told everything, how the situation, they are told that on the first they are going. In fact, they've been busy sending the workload during this lockdown via WhatsApp and stuff like that. But some did not have cell phones, so they missed out. So we don't know what is going to happen when they go back, whether they are going to start back from where they left off in March, or we don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But like I said in the beginning, everyone have lost their rights during this pandemic.
I really, really do hope that that there's some progress when it comes to our education system in light of this pandemic. But I'm not going to be too pessimistic about it. I'm going to be hopeful about it. From personally as a student myself, and also just having relatives that are also in school and friends that are in school, just being hopeful that it will sort of progress and become better. But for me personally, I want to go back to the online learning and its effectiveness. Like, I think that online learning has only reached audiences that obviously have resources to conduct their learning virtually, laptop, internet, environment, whatnot. So it's only certain audiences, and it's already creating a stratification within who has reached a certain point in terms of education, who has not, and who has maybe they stopped learning when schools closed back in March. But my question is, how do we, and not necessarily just rely on the government, but how do we take steps towards helping and sibambane ngezandla and just make sure that from our side we're also putting in work in terms of making sure that no one is left behind in terms of education?
I think we need to get involved anyway. Like, even the school kids need to reach out. We also need to give what we have to help in the process. Like, for instance, people will not know what you need until you speak out. 2 days ago, I met this one guy. He is studying Stellenbosch University, and I asked him, how is this online learning treating you? Is it okay? Are you fine? Are you adapting? Are you coping? And he was complaining about the data issue and the connectivity and internet and all that. So I said to him, why don't you walk? Because in Stellenbosch, from Kayamandi, it's a walking distance. why don't you walk and use public internet in town? Because there is Ekestad Mall free Wi-Fi. Instead of sitting here and complaining that things are not happening, things are not working out, what is there that you can use? I think people need to speak out, need to ask for advice, people need to network, people need to use their social media for their advantage. People need to connect now for the purpose, because everyone is on Facebook, everyone is on WhatsApp. So we need to change our mindset and use those platforms for the benefit, like for the purpose of learning, and ask when we don't know, because help is always around the corner, but we don't know. So we need to get away with our fears and whatever. You just go for what you want. And fortunately, he submitted all his assignments and his tests and everything. And he was grateful that there is free internet Wi-Fi in Ekestad Mall where he can use. So it's all about asking and seeking and knocking and make yourself vulnerable for what you want. Just make sure that you do something from your side, because now blaming game is not going to help us. You just need to know what is it that you have, what is it that you want, where can you get it? Because now government is up there and we are here and we are the one who are struggling. So we need to put ourselves out there and ask for information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure, you want to say something? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Adding on to Nomfundo's question, do you think that if let's say all of these service providers, Vodacom, Cell C, all came together to create... Hello?
Yes, now I hear you. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
what?
I don't know what was my service. I was saying, linking it back to Nomfundo's question, do you think that it would be a great initiative if all of the service providers in South Africa, Cell C, Vodacom, all tried to come together and work with the government to create a digital action plan initiative where they create different data bundle systems for their students in terms of them trying to at least compromise and help the students adjust to online learning?
I heard that it has started already.
Okay.
Yes, it has started. And it's just that it's the process, because some people did receive their data and some not yet, but they are working on it. I'm sure all the networks, they are helping out, but I am not sure if it's going to be sufficient. That part I don't know.
Or even sustainable in the long run, because we don't know for how long we're going to be in this crisis for. So my worry with everything, actually, all these problems arising, is these solutions, are they sustainable enough? Like, let's work towards making them sustainable as much as possible, that they can sustain us months, years. We don't know. We don't know.
And my advice to that, let's take it one step at a time. Otherwise, we are going to have mental issues, problems. Let's deal with what we have now. Let's work with that now, because next year we don't know. It's not promised. Next month, we don't know. Just as we didn't know that we'll be sitting here today, locked in our homes for this long. So, that leads me to one of my points that I've noted in under mental health. So we don't need to worry about what is going to happen next year. We just need to deal with this now, and we need self-motivation more than ever, because people are negative out there, and it's understandable. So you just need to motivate yourself. You need to encourage yourself. You need to look at the brighter side. You just need to for me, I stopped worrying about this. My concern now is that I have food enough for today, because I don't have control over this thing. I do not. So what's the point of worrying myself and stay anxious, and because I'll get sick at the end of the day and then I'll be useless. we don't have control over this, and it's a worldwide issue that caught us by surprise. So we just need to take care of ourselves. Self-care is crucial at this point in time.
Amen to that.
Over to you, Nokuphiwa.
Pardon? Angizange, ma?
No, I was saying over to you.
Oh, for me, I hear you when you say self-care. I consider self-care very, very crucial. Crucial elements, like just taking care of yourself and taking time to be by yourself and sort of desensitize, whoa, my English, from everything that's been happening. And a lot is happening at this time. So I definitely, for me, to other people there as well who will watch this video, it's definitely important to take care of yourself and just take time. I've learned that in the past months. So I hear you when you say that, Ma.
Yeah, I agree as well, because with what she said, as to we're very uncertain. We don't know where this is going, when it is ending. So as much as it sounds like a cliche to say take it one step at a time, it is actually truthful that you just have to take it one step at a time as it comes. Today, you tell yourself, okay, I'm following this routine, I'm doing this, and then you just take it every day as it comes, because you can't worry about something you can't control and something you don't know where you're going. You're just adding on more stress to like yourself, body, and your mental health. And enough is already going on if you're a student with online learning and emails and all of that. And then on top of that, it's this pandemic. So you just have to take it like one day at a time. Like focus on what you have going on now, or what you have going on in the week, and then we will get to it, truthfully.
Yeah.
And always shout, ask when you need help. You know, people are kind. There is still kindness on earth. People are kind, guys. When you ask, people can help you. So we must not run away from being vulnerable. Ask for what you don't have. You'll be surprised. Community, people still have heart out there. So ask when you don't know where to get something, when you don't understand. Even the students, I encourage them to communicate with their lecturers. Tell your story, tell your situation. If you don't have data, if you don't have laptop, if you don't have whatever, communicate. They will make a way. Instead of stressing and worrying and sit there and then decide it's over, this is my life, and blame everyone. So ask, and even if you don't have resources, ask those who have. Make an effort, go out there and seek help. Take responsibility. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking the time as well to speak to us and to just, relay such insightful advice and engaging with us in terms of the right to education, online learning, and students and whatnot. I've definitely taken away something from this, and I hope other people do as well. Yeah, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you.
You're welcome. Love you, girls, and stay home. And your mask. Where is your?
Yes, we will.
Oh, it was lovely.
Oh, thank you so much, Mom. Thank you.
Keep well.
You too. Keep well, keep safe. And good luck to your son who's going to go back to school. Best wishes to him, and I wish him the best. Really, I do.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so good day, everybody. We are creating a webinar which is featuring Letlotlo Morule. We have the honor to have her on here. She is a student at the University of Pretoria and is currently studying an LLB degree. He's very passionate about women's rights, and he currently has an organization called Kulisa Mfazi, which means raise a woman. And in addition to that, she is the founder and host of a podcast called Women's Lab. I am Afua Dua, the human rights educator of Amnesty Stellenbosch. Nomfundo, you can introduce yourself.
My name is Nomfundo. I am the human rights coordinator for UNAS Stellenbosch. I'm studying BA International Studies. I'm second year at Stellenbosch University.
Okay. Let's get into the questions then. So I'll start with the first question. In light of, students being forced with this whole transition and interruption of the education system to online education, do you think institutions will implement or adjust requirements for students in high school level who are planning on applying to universities next year?
You know what? I think that this is the most nerve-wracking time for matrics and grade 11 students. And grade 11 students mainly because obviously these results will determine whether they're provisionally accepted into university. And with matrics, obviously, because this is like their final chapter, that determines whether or not they walk through university gates, or not. So I think this is the most nerve-wracking time. And I do think that it's very important for universities then to start thinking that, okay, we are in a situation like this, right? And it is very important to evaluate the certain circumstances that we're going through. So firstly, perhaps evaluate the mental, the mental exhaustion that matrics and grade 11s are going through. Determine whether it is they are studying in a very conducive space. It is also very important to note that it's been 2 months that many matrics have lost school. Private schools have attempted, and I think maybe public schools, but many private schools have attempted to go through schooling via Zoom, via Microsoft Teams, and they have actually, they are remote. They are learning via online schooling, and it has been working for them. However, we should understand that online schooling is also very, it is exclusive. It is exclusive to those who can afford, those who are in good and good environments, those who are just able to access online schooling, because data is expensive in South Africa, devices are expensive. You know what I mean? So I think it is very important for universities to think, okay, because of these current circumstances, there is no way a matric student is going to, be there's no way they're going to be fantastic. You know what I mean? There's no way they're going to get the A's that they want to get because of the certain circumstances that we're going through at the moment. So it is very important for universities just to think about that a little bit and just evaluate based on this time that we're in.
Okay. Linking that in with what you were saying about schools, do you think that the minister or the government as a whole will try and ensure or bring some means to learners and staff? As you said, it's not inclusive. So in terms of them not trying to limit students and staff getting affected in overcrowded schools in rural areas?
I don't know. Listening to our minister's plan, personally, I do believe that it's not very detailed. She is expecting every grade 12 and grade 7 student to be back at school on the 1st of June, right? And right now, I'm a little bit nervous for them because one of the plans that they have started putting in there, ensuring that there's water in every school. So now if we're just thinking, if schools have been going without water for so long, how can we actually ensure that in terms of corona, in terms of social distancing, in terms of will they actually adhere to those type of things in order to inhibit, the spread of COVID-19? So I think it is I am very nervous, and grade 7s are also very young, to understand that, okay, we need to social distance. The first thing people do, adults can't even social distance. Adults want to get together. Adults meet at the shopping centers to get together and talk. How do we expect a 13-year-old to not hug their friend the moment that they see them? You know what I mean? So I think it is a very nerve-wracking time, and I think there's not enough sensitivity put into that plan, because the minister did mention that if you don't want your child back at school, then there are homeschooling facilities in order, for you to homeschool your child, which I do think is a little bit unfair, because now children are forced to go to school, and the plan is not detailed enough for us to know whether coronavirus, they have actually put a stop to the spread of coronavirus. I also do think that they're not looking at international communities, because in France, they actually started now reopening their economy after 2 months of lockdown, similar to us, and they took their kids back to school. But what they did is there were only 10 students in each class, right? Only 10 students in each class. But already the cases of coronavirus they've already increased by 70. So if we are saying a first world country such as France is already going through that, we should be able to learn as a third world country that, you know what, this actually might not work, and there needs to be more detail put into this plan. So I'm a little bit nervous about, grade 12s and grade 7s going back to school, because honestly, I have very little hope in the plan that the minister gave us. Very, very little hope.
Yes, I understand what you mean in terms of being nervous and trying to, grapple this whole pandemic along with the educational system.
Yeah.
Specifically nervous about, vulnerable groups such as children with special needs. That require a certain type of, or like a particular way of engaging in schoolwork or activities. So from your perspective, how do you think that this will affect their education? And if it were to be, if it were to be adjusted, do you think it would them enough?
That's just a very interesting question. And I think also a very difficult question. Because because number one, we have to note that the minister did mention in her plan that soon she will be focusing on schools, special schools, which are schools with kids with disabilities, with children with disabilities. But however, she did not really stipulate as to, the plans about the reopening of schools such as that, may perhaps taking it remote. She did not stipulate, and she did not further expand on that. But I do think it's also very important for us to look at how other countries are also dealing with schools of with children with special needs, because whether we like it or not, it is very, very difficult to handle a child with special needs. And at home, we don't have speech pathologists, for example. We don't have therapists that deal with kids that need those specific needs, right? So it is very difficult for you to homeschool your child, because number one, you're not trained to, you don't know how to, and you can only do what you can do and what you know how to do. But essentially you're not trained and you're not educated on how to educate another child with special needs. But I do think that it is important, like I said, to really look at other countries and what they're doing, because I read a bit earlier on, actually, I read that in Argentina, what they have decided to do is, it is total lockdown. It is absolutely like everyone is in their homes 24/7, right, in Argentina. So what happens is now they have given provision to parents with kids of special needs to be able to take them out for walks, for drives, if they start to become agitated, if they start to become irritated, when they can't focus, etc. So they do allow provisions such as that. So I do think that the government must just start thinking about provisions, just to enable the child, to just enable them to actually focus, enable them to, at the end of the day, honestly, they're a marginalized group, and they are a group that I do believe that not enough attention has to them, so I do believe that the government just needs to really think about implementing such provisions such as Argentina, and just start thinking about them, because it is a very, very difficult time for them and for their parents. It is a very difficult time.
Yeah. Another question that I'd like to ask you is, since you advocate for women's rights, what does human rights mean to you? And not sure how big your organization is, but what areas of human rights are apparent in your organization?
Okay, cool. So human rights, I think we all understand are our fundamental rights, the rights that we are entitled to as human beings. So I think that's the line. And in terms of my organization, Kuli Samfazi, I think I had to really think about this a bit. But I do think the main rights that do appear, number one, is the right of equality, because it is very important for women and men to be given equal opportunities in society, equal opportunities in the workspace, equal opportunities to represent us as a country, etc., etc. So it is very important that the right of equality does appear in the work that I do. And the number two that I actually highlighted was the right to life. Because in South Africa, GBV is very alarming. It's very scary. You know what I mean? We are not safe in this country. The rates of femicide are absolutely insane, are terrifying. You know what I mean? We are not safe in this country. So the right to life really essentially means that, we kind of highlight that, these are the rates of femicide. We highlight the ill injustices that happen to women every single day, and that we as women are entitled to a right to life, and that it should not be taken away by men, by the state, by anyone, because we are entitled to a right to life. So I do think those are the two main fundamental human rights that do appear in my work.
Okay, linking back to what you were saying about our alarming rates, pardon me, alarming rates of, the violence that we already had.
Yes.
Now it's just increasing, and it's escalated on a whole different scale. Do you think that our criminal justice system needs to be reviewed to, suit the violent acts during this lockdown? And do you think that the measures that have been created of, safe havens is enough to, kind of limit the abuse towards women in South Africa, since, it has escalated so much, and it's something that we are really and truly grappling and wrestling with for, like, we are going to for some time.
Yeah. So I do think, number one, our criminal justice system needs
Letlotlo, your break. Yes, we're back. Yes.
Are we back? Are we back?
Yes.
Can you edit that out? Can you edit that out?
Yeah, it's fine. We can continue.
Okay. So what I was saying is that our criminal justice system needs to be reviewed during lockdown, and even in an ideal corona-free world. Our criminal justice system right now is not for women. Number one, it is not for women. The president did note last year in 2019 that we had a total of 87,000 reported gender-based violence related crimes. You know what I mean? In 2019 alone, roughly 100, and this is only reported. You know what I mean? And we are aware that reported cases are they're a very small percentage. We don't have many reported cases in South Africa. So our president did note that 87,000 cases were reported in 2019, and only 4% of those cases are persecuted. So this is clear that, the criminal justice system is not for women. Women are turned back at police stations when they try and call the police station and report their abuser. Women are turned back. Women are made, it is one time where victims are turned into perpetrators. So, and this is in a corona-free society. This is where, COVID-19 does not exist. So we can only imagine, the implications that this pandemic has had on the safety of women, because women are now caged with their abusers. They can't move, they can't drive around, they can't, you know what I mean? You have to stay with your abuser 24/7 in this pandemic. But now I do think with the what's the word? The lessening of the restrictions in terms of lockdown, I do think it is a little bit better, because now you can see, there are more cars on the streets, people are going to malls, there is economic activity, etc. So perhaps a woman leaving their home will not be as alarming as when it was level 5 lockdown. Do you understand what I mean? So because now there are so many things to do now in South Africa, because our economy is, almost back to 100%. It is almost back to 100%. So now perhaps when a woman leaves their place, the abuser won't be as alarmed as before. But definitely, I do believe that our criminal justice system has to be reviewed and we need Black women representing us in the drafting of our criminal justice system, in the drafting of, certain things. We need Black women that represent and that know that, okay, these are the certain circumstances and the certain situations that abused women go through, and this is how we can get out of that. And I do believe that is the way forward in terms of reviewing our justice system. But 100%, it has to be reviewed for us as Black women and women, actually, just abused women. Yeah.
Yes. I completely agree with you. So now moving on from a personal account, obviously you're a student, you're doing LLB, and you are also, doing online learning. So from a personal, how has online learning been for you? And with it, have you experienced anything negative? Has it been negatively overwhelming for you, towards your mental health? And has it been inclusive for you? Are you able to get your emails and get your work done in time?
You know what? Luckily for me, right, my parents have really tried to ensure that this is a space conducive for learning, especially during this pandemic. So in terms of internet connection, that is not a big struggle on my side. Therefore, I can submit my assignments and etc. So in the physical stuff, in terms of learning, submitting, the physical things that I day basis in order to learn has been going. Sometimes you're in a space that really doesn't allow to work. Maybe perhaps you need to study from now, and then you have to cook at 4. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. So as much as of course we need to cook, and we need to live. Food gives us life. But at the same time, we need to wash dishes. You need to study, and then you're called to wash the dishes, and that really breaks your studying. You know what I mean? So in terms of personally for me, in terms of Wi-Fi, in terms of device and stuff, I am blessed enough to have a good environment. But looking at my other students, my co-students, as I could say, it has been a little bit difficult in terms of internet connectivity. Yes, universities have attempted, to give us gigabytes, and they have, provided devices to those which are not as privileged, and etc. Yes, they have tried to really, make us all in one level. They have tried to level us all. They've tried to level the playing field, as one would say. But honestly speaking, it is in the environment. Learning, your ability to learn and your ability to really become the best version of yourself academically is due to your environment. So I can't learn if I've got 6 kids running up and down in the house, crying. One wants this, wants me to make food, etc., etc. You can't learn in an environment like that. So it is very interesting, because it is very interesting to see what other students are going through as compared to myself. Being at home is not an ideal situation for everyone. Some students are abused at home. Some students' parents are very toxic towards them. Do you know what I mean? So being at home is not ideal for every single student. And I do think that universities should try and revise that and should try and think about that, because being home is very difficult for some people. Yeah.
Okay. I agree, because a lot of the times it conflicts with the schedules that you have, and parents parents just think just because you're sitting there that, Letlotlo, come, dishes are waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I completely understand. Right. So because we're able to relate, and I'm sure there are other people who watch this who will be able to relate, as students. What advice do you have for them, or what's your routine that you can advise to other people that maybe if you do this, it will give you a lighter and better schedule to get you what needs to be done in that day?
Yeah. So I think number 1 is communicate with your parents. You need to sit them down and be like, look, mama, papa, I'm at school. This is not holiday. I'm at school. So please respect me from this certain time to that certain time. I will do everything that you want me to do afterwards, but between this time and that time, please, can you respect me? So number 1, to really create that that good environment, that conducive environment, is for you to communicate with your parents. Number 2, what I do personally is typically I'm not a morning person, right? I'm really not a morning person. So I do start all my work after 10 o'clock. So after 10 o'clock is when I start everything. And I go exactly with my timetable. So in an ideally COVID-19 free world, if we'd be going in and out of campus, I go with that timetable. So if Monday I've got contract law, I do contract law on that Monday. Tuesday I've got this and that, I do that and that and that on Tuesday. You know what I mean? So I think my biggest advice to a difficult time with online schooling is follow your timetable. If you follow your timetable and perhaps also plan ahead, then speaking, I think you could get a bit far. Just calm down, just relax, because I do think that we will get through this. Everything comes to an end eventually. Nothing lasts forever. You know what I mean? So just calm down, just relax, just do what you have to do. Ensure that all your assignments are handed in. So I know a lot of people have trouble with studying versus assignments. So what I do is I always ensure that my assignments and my test preparation is always ahead of me. Actually, just, do you know what I mean? Like going through the slides and whatever. So I ensure that all my assignments are handed in and that test preparation is ahead, because at the end of the day, that is what contributes to my final marks. You know what I mean? So I just do make sure that my assignments are always handed in, that my test preparation is up to date. And that way, honestly, and just always stay relaxed. Always stay relaxed. Don't stress too much. Just relax. Everything's going to be fine. Just relax, And I know it is easier said than done to just relax when you're spiraling out of control. But, just take it a day at a time. Follow your timetable. If today if you've got economics, do that ecos and get over and done with it. Don't be lazy. Switch off your Netflix. Netflix is always going to be there. Those series are not going anywhere. If your phone is a distraction, switch off that Twitter. Personally, Twitter is a huge distraction for me. So, I make sure that maybe I delete it for a little bit, or, I put my phone away. So just make sure, let's cancel out your distractions and everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree with you with what you said about taking it one day at a time. As much people might think, very cliche, or it's, easier said than done, but it's actually truth. There's a lot of, truth in that.
Yeah.
Yes, this will be over, but there's a lot of uncertainty. So instead of like focusing on that, already there's online, there's mental health, then you admit politics tomorrow, etc. So, so it's just easier to take it one day at a time and focus on what. If it's ecos today, okay, one step, we're gonna do ecos. It's one step to being
one
productive.
step at a time. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Other than having this cloud of, when are we gonna go back to campus?
Exactly.
Things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I completely agree with you. All the questions for today. I don't know if there's anything you want to, add on. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's okay.
Is there anything more that you'd like to add, or?
Look, nothing much. Oh, let me just cover a little bit on the work of the organization. I think people want to know actually who they are talking to and what my work really is, and so my organization's name is Khuli Samfazi. My podcast name is also the Women's Club, and basically the Women's Club is the second leg of Khuli Samfazi. It's the voice of Khuli Samfazi. What we aim to do, number one, as an entire organization, what we aim to do is educate society about the injustices that occur to women on a daily basis. Number two is give women a platform to share their own stories, how they want to share it, when they want to share it. And that is via the podcast, obviously. And then number three is just celebrating women, women that have risen above, unfortunate circumstances, or just women who are doing great things, that lady next door who is really changing the world with the little that she has. So it is just celebrating those type of women, because we definitely need to do that as women. We need to create a tribe amongst ourselves that really lift ourselves, that we lift each other up, but then take each other down. And that is what I aim to do with Khuli Samfazi, and what I aim to do with myself just as an individual. You know what I mean? Support businesses, women's businesses, support, everything that, because we get equality if we don't support each other. and if we don't put money in each other's businesses, we don't, things like that. So that is what I aim to do as an individual and what Khuli Sampasi aims to do as an organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the mandate of your organization, and what advice can you give to the youth who also want to begin similar initiatives?
So the mandate, like I did mention, is it's those three things. Which is educating society about the injustices that occur to women on a daily basis, give women the platform to share their own stories whenever they want to, and then number 3 is celebrate women that have risen above certain circumstances. That is the mandate, and that is the vision of it. But in terms of it, advice that I'd like to give to people that would like to start something like this is just start. I do believe just start, because I do believe that number 1 is we as individuals all have a social responsibility, and we need to tap into that. We need to start contributing to creating the ideal society that we want. And we need to now start thinking, what is my social responsibility, and what is it that I can do to create that society that I personally want? So my advice to someone young who wants to start an initiative, any type of initiative, is just start it with the little resources that you have, with your cell phone, with your laptop, with that 30 megabytes that you probably have. Number 1 is maybe you could just start an Instagram page creating awareness on a specific thing that you'd like to create awareness of. So if you can just start, it will blossom into something bigger than you had anticipated, because you just started. So just start is my advice.
Okay. And last question. Yeah. How has your organization, or has it been able to adapt to the current climate of COVID-19?
So this COVID-19 has been a very interesting time for us as creatives, as students. It's just been a very interesting time. But one way I think is also just becoming more visible on social media, because we like it or not, as much as, social media can have its toxic elements and toxic factors, we need to use it to the best of our ability. So number 1 is becoming very visible on social media. Number 2 is the podcast. So I've always had this podcast. However, during this COVID-19 time, I should stop saying Corona time, and I've been saying that this entire conversation.
Okay.
So in terms of this COVID-19 time, it is very hard, obviously, to make, to interview certain individuals. It is very difficult to hold certain conversations and to hold podcasts, because we are now, we are separated from each other. So one thing that I've started on the podcast is called Conversations with the Women's Club, phone call conversations with the Women's Club. And that is literally you and I speaking over the phone, and then we put that on our podcast. And it's a raw, real conversation. You know what I mean? So, we have also featured amazing women so far. We featured Candace Chirwa, Tebum Pahlele, many women in many different fields that are doing many different things, and we just have a raw conversation as 2 women talking about what you're doing, and, how we can just fix this world one step at a time.
Okay. Thank you so much, Letlotlo, for coming and being here and answering all of these questions. We appreciate your insight, and I really hope that it will impact people who are going to listen to this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this conversation. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. And then I think we'll just end it there, where I thanked you. Okay, so it is recording. Okay, so here's the thing. Nomfundo had to leave because she has an SAU at 4. So sorry about that.
Okay, no, it's okay. I was wondering.
Yeah. She sent me like a text mid question when I was asking you, and I couldn't obviously include it. Do you know how Zoom works? So since it's recording, we can just leave.
Yeah, we can. I think we can just leave. Hang on, let me see it nicely. Girl, I want to make a mistake.
And then will the recording be with her? Because we can't do it will.
I think it will be on her Zoom app.
Okay.
Her Zoom application.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are you going to edit that part? Are you going to edit out that part where my connection was?
Yeah, I will speak to Vian because that glitch was a bit.
Please.
Yeah. yeah, don't worry. I'll speak to Vian and ask him if he's a whiz. So I'll ask him if there's a way that he can remove that glitch. Because even with the previous interview, apparently I wasn't I was
Oh,
freezing.
is it?
Yeah, let's hope we can fix it. But if
Okay, cool.
we can't, I will let you know.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Okay,
Bye.
cool. Bye.